My name is Corey. I'm an alcoholic. Over the last several years, I've had the great privilege and the honor of spending time with Searcy at different archives activities around the country. We got to know each other. I got to know more about Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been fortunate enough to have the pearls of wisdom dropped on me, and I'm just so happy to be here and glad Searcy's here with us. Searcy was here at Archives 2000 2 years ago at the International. Where were we? We were just out in New York. I mean, this guy just travels weekend after weekend after weekend. And at 92 years old, I wish I had the energy in this bunk that he did. I think I'm more wore out than he is from this weekend, and it's been a delightful weekend. A couple other things here too. We have Gopher Status here. You can get tapes of this thing immediately after the talk. Searcy's going to be here. He's going to be signing books. Stop and chat. But I want to give you a little bit of an idea of where Searcy came from. Of course, his anniversary is May 10th of 1946. And some of the people some of the wisdom that Searcy's dropped on me, and maybe some of it stuck and maybe some of it hasn't, but some of the people that Searcy got to know and had relationships in Alcoholics Anonymous, both inside and out with our Normie friends, include Marty Mann, Tom P., who co-edited the 12 by 12, Sybil Corwin, of course, our first woman to get sober west of the Mississippi and California, Dr. Silkworth, Dr. Jelinek, Sam Shoemaker, Father Dowling, Ruth Hawk, Bill and Lois, Bob and Ann, Bill Dotson, and not to mention Ebby, who Searcy sponsored. With that, I'd like to introduce my friend, our friend, Searcy W. from Dallas, Texas.
Got it. She's better to me than my own wife. You are a sweetheart.
Thank you.
And I have to say that to begin with. I don't care whether you agree with me or not. She's a sweetheart. My name is Searcy, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Searcy.
Yeah, I know it's hard to tell that from my face, but I've done some drinking for about 20 years of my life. And most of it is uncontrolled drinking. But I'm glad to be here today on this occasion. There is no place I love outside of AA is the Salvation Army, and what you do to help so many people that we cannot even help in Alcoholics Anonymous. You put them in a position in a lifetime to be able to come to us and see if we can help them with the 12 steps to remain sober. It's a process, and I am deeply, deeply grateful to the Salvation Army, Tom, and all of you people who have made it possible for me to be here. I'm grateful to God and for all these gifts that I have received while here. I've been stretching the truth over at Hazelden for about 2 or 3 days. And we got a lot of them baptized over there. And I told Tom to get the water hot over here. Yeah, you know, I'm a recovering Baptist. And my dad used to tell, I was raised on a farm out in West Texas, and they told me not to talk over 45 minutes, so I'd hardly introduce myself in 45 minutes, but you know, these old timers talk on and on and on, you know what the hell they're talking about, but And it doesn't matter we're sober. The bottom line is we're sober. And I have to tell this story about one time we were having a convention in Amarillo, Texas, and Bill and Lois were there, and Bill, after the meeting had spoken that night, after the meeting was over, my wife and I and another couple had a suite in the hotel with a parlor in the middle. And after talking to old Bill as usual, when I was with him, and I was with him a lot, he would get in, he'd lie down in that parlor or anywhere where he could lie down on the floor. And I used to ask him if he had back problems. He said, no, I have tiresome problems. And so anyhow, he was lying down on that floor with his feet cocked up in the chair, and this lady came in, doors were open, wide open. And that lady came in and said, Mr. Wilson, I've been wanting to talk with you. And she said, yes, ma'am. And he was all ears, laying down there as usual. And this lady said, we don't know this. We're not sure about it. But some of us are of the opinion, of our own opinion, that there's some fornicating going along in our group. And she went on and on and on about some things that their people were doing. And old Bill listened to every bit of it. And when she got through, he said, well, honey, let me ask you one question. Are they sober? I have three important numbers in my life, very important. And those numbers are 93, 69, and 56. I'm 93 years old. I've been married to the same woman for 69 years. And I've been sober 56 years. 5 more days I'll have 57, but they won't give me my chip. They don't trust me, you know. Hell, you're not there yet. You got 5 more days. So you have to go along with the program, whatever it is, you know. Just a brief. I'm not going to get into a drunk-along with you. I know you hope that. You know, we have to talk about what happened, what's the solution to what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and how to stay sober, and those things, how to help others, trust God, clean house, and help others. And those are important things. What happened to me is sacred because that's what happened. I can't change it. And so my wife says hello to all of you, and God bless you. She had a hip surgery a couple of years ago and had trouble with it since then, but she's with you in spirit. She's the oldest living Al-Anon. She and Lois worked on the Al-Anon program years and years. Bill and Lois and my wife and I ran around together, mostly places where Bill wouldn't be seen with me, and for many, many years, and helped me generously and in a many, many different ways to have the pleasure of being a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and why I found out. So anyhow, Bill and Lois were around, and in 1946, the latter part of 46, I'd been sober from May until it was in November. And Bill Wilson came to, we had what they called was the first state meeting in Texas, in Austin, Texas, at St. Edward's University. And Bill and Lois came down there, and I'd never met Bill before, and I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know at all. I had not really been able to practice the principles and all what I even knew about AA by then. But I was smart as hell, having 3 or 4 months sobriety. I wanted to pass along all this wisdom I could. So Bill and I made friends at that for some unknown reason, and only God knows. We made a friendship that lasted until he died in 1971. I was with him. We were on trips together. We talked together. We visited together, and I'll tell you about some of the things that I corrected him on. And he didn't mind me correcting him at all. He didn't give a damn whether I did or not. If he wanted, he'd listen to it. If he didn't, well, he'd say, "Yeah, go ahead." And so, at that convention, I knew that by God's grace, something had happened, and that I was in the right place for sobriety, and I was with the right people for sobriety. I was raised on a farm out in West Texas, and my father and mother were devout Baptists. I'm going to give you a little bit of my drunken law. And I never knew anything. I didn't understand religion, but my father was a devout deacon in the Baptist church, and my mother was a Sunday school teacher, and so I would listen to them on Sunday night. They would have prayer meetings, and I heard him say some things that had no meaning to me until I came into the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's so many things that we don't observe and don't realize and don't know until we came into this fellowship. It's an education within itself to see, because the miracles of God happen here. Every day, every night, all the time, year after year. The miracle of God, it's all a miracle of a power greater than we are. So, what my father would pray for was his neighbors. And he prayed for old John that lived in the farm next door. And I knew damn well he didn't like it. Oh, he told me so. He said he drank whiskey and stuff like that. And he was a bad guy because he drank whiskey. And but he'd pray for him. And God take care of old John, help him, And there wasn't much help for John out there, I'll tell you that. He just kept on drinking. And but anyhow, my father, I learned a lot, and it meant something to me after I was in that. Not until then, that you could pray for somebody, love everybody, even if you didn't agree with them. Love. And it's the greatest thing that happens to us in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it is the basic principle of why we exist and why we're here, is because somebody loved us enough to help us to stay sober, to get sober and stay sober, and find a design for living like no other way to live in the world. There is nothing in the world, there is no institution, fellowship, or program that has the love built into it as Alcoholics Anonymous. There's 12 steps, and if we will experience those 12 steps, we find sobriety. Well, anyhow, now I want you to know I've got a coat, and I'm going to take it off. But I didn't have a coat when I came in here. But I'm glad to show it off. It had a couple of buttons on it and so forth. That I'm glad to have a coat I'm glad to have anything, you know. So, anyhow, I had an old aunt that lived up in Stanford, Texas. I'm getting up in the big cities now in West Texas, about 1,400 population. And I had an old aunt up there that had a boarding house, and she took me in to stay with her and finish high school, to get off of that farm. And so I moved in with her, finished high school, and I had a contract to play semi-pro baseball in the old West Texas League. And so I went they gave me a contract in Midland, Texas, where there was a lot of oil production and a lot of money floating in from all points of the earth to help develop the Permian Basin, which was an oil place in West Texas. And so they sponsored, an automobile company sponsored me. And so anyhow, our baseball manager had a funeral parlor. And that's a hell of a combination, a baseball manager and a funeral parlor. But he had a funeral parlor, and every Sunday afternoon after the baseball game, we'd meet at the funeral parlor and talk about our successes and having lost the game and stuff like that, you know. And so there was one guy, I don't know about you, but I never liked to drink with a sorry drinker. My wife is one of them. She orders grasshoppers, whatever that is, and there's salt around the top, and we'll sit there and eat a meal, and the salt's still on top of it. Just money wasted. If you're gonna drink it up, drink it up, drink it up, puke it up, keep drinking. Just keep, you know. That way you get your money's worth. That's just wasted money. Those grasshoppers are a waste, especially if you don't drink them. And I never fooled with such a silly thing as a grasshopper anyhow. I wanted a bunch of booze in it, you know. Well, anyhow, we had a guy played third baseman for us named Red Hill, and he was a sorry drink. He couldn't drink. In those days, we had home brew. That's about all we had to drink. Homemade whiskey and stuff like bootleg whiskey, they called it. But old Red, we had a lot of home brew at the funeral home after the game. And old Red Hill this day had about a couple of beers and passed out on the funeral floor. And we who could handle alcohol so good were highly indignant about such a sorry drinker. You know, we said, and finally we decided that we had a group conscience meeting. And we decided we'd get even with him, so we put him in a casket. And we put flowers in his ears and all around the room, and stood back listening to what he might have to say. And finally he aroused a little, and we see him feeling around and looking up and around, and finally we could hear him say, "Well, if I'm not dead, why am I here?" And he said, "And if I am dead, why do I have to go to the bathroom?" Sorry drinker. Sorry drinker. I had a job, they gave me a job with a lot of oil companies, rich oil companies out there they sponsored baseball teams. And they'd give them a job. They didn't do anything, but they'd give them a job, pay them to play baseball. And every little city and country, a town out there had a baseball club. And they were well financed with oil companies. So they gave mine with a motor company. And so that day, over a period of time, the baseball played out, or my part of it did. Some of the guys went up to the big leagues. I didn't. But they gave me a general manager's deal with that automobile company to head the company and I had to do a lot of entertaining, and I did with a carload of whiskey all the time, and entertaining all the time, and telling people what good whiskey to drink and which one not to drink and all that. I had all the knowledge of all the alcohol that being produced. And so I did that for a long period of time, and I made a lot of money. And for an old farm boy, it had no money. Well, my mother used to say I was more of a planter than I was a farmer. I planted and hoped to hell it didn't grow. You know, that's kind of. Well, anyhow, over a period of time, I found out a lot of things about drinking and how to drink and how not to drink, but not how to control it. No, I didn't know that. Well, anyhow, I got fired from that job, and then I took the geographical cure. Now, the geographical cure is unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. That's what geographical cure is. And I took that, and they moved me to Corpus Christi, Texas, credit manager of the Packard Motor Company. Now, there's a few Packard faces here, one over there, and I see a few around. Anyhow, they were sorry damn cars, but they furnished me a big Packard car to take care of the credit part of the company out of Corpus Christi. And so I'd load that old Packard up with booze and go out on the King Ranch and stay out there for several days at a time. And you ever notice when you get in the development of alcoholism, you go through stages. You don't just come up one day with alcoholism because your dad or mother or something was. You develop alcoholism through a process. By doing things, then finally you cross that line into drinking to get away from the effects of drinking. And it changes, it's terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. And then you start working for a narrow-minded employer, too. Did you notice that? Yeah. And your luck changes. You get this. It has nothing to do with drinking. Your luck just gets bad. So anyhow, they decided they'd get rid of me with the Packard people and several others in the meantime. And all of them decided they could do well without me, so I hired out to something that where I wouldn't be seen. And a big CEO like me, driving a pickle truck. So I started working for a guy that had onions and pickles in the truck. And we went to a hamburger joint where nobody knew me. And the guy came out and said, "This is a holiday. Don't you know?" I said, "No, but I'm damn glad it is." So we went on to Mexico. And while over there, we traded pickle and onions for booze and went back to Corpus Christi. A good deal, a good swap. And checked in the New Aces Hotel in the presidential suite. We didn't have any money, but we were in the suite. And I, for some time, had to try to coerce my wife to move to corporate and join me, that I was going to slow down on my drinking. And I was going to be a better gentleman, real nice guy. Yeah. And she finally bought it. And she was a court reporter, worked in the legal offices. And she moved, came on, joined me in Corpus Christi, but I didn't quit drinking. I just kept drinking. And so finally, show you another way, how your luck just shot to hell. The longer you drink, the worse you get. The worse your luck is. And so my luck was that she went to work for a firm of lawyers after they put me in jail for running off with a truck. She worked for the firm of lawyers that represented the guy that owned the pickle truck I ran off. Just bad luck. Nothing to do with drinking. Just bad luck. Well, I moved. My brother told me he thought I needed the geographical cure some more, so I went to Dallas, worked in a defense plant there. This is in the World War II now, not the Revolutionary War. And I observed, an alcoholic can observe things more. They're smart. Oh, God, are we smart. And And I observed they put me in charge of people out there and what they were doing and what they were not doing. So as smart as I was, I could see that we were going to lose the World War II because these people weren't doing anything, just sitting on their butts and doing nothing, you know. And so I volunteered to go into service for our country. And that was a mistake. Oh, I was 33 years old and I'd been drunk 20 years. You can imagine what kind of condition I was in, physically. Terrible. And so anyhow, long story short, after about 11 months, they decided if we're going to win the war, they better get rid of me. And I went back to, they got me out of the service. I went back to Dallas, and I had a job waiting for the company I'd done business with before. And they moved me from Dallas to Lubbock, Texas, way out west. And to manage 5 states out there with the products of the motor company. And so I was traveling with a salesman down south of where I live in Odessa, Texas. And I had an old drinking buddy out in West Texas. He and his mother had a big oil company, a lot of money, and we did a lot of drinking together. Incidentally, his son came to visit me yesterday over at Minneapolis. His son, and his father was the one that told me about it. I ran into his father. And he was a sorry drinker. He had a lot of money. I'd steal his money. He'd pass out and stay drunk, you know. And but I ran into Bob, and he had moved to Dallas from West Texas. And so I invited him to have a drink with me, and we went to have a drink. Only he didn't drink. He said, "I'm not drinking today." And so I asked him what kind of a neuro disease he had. I was sure there'd be some reason he wouldn't drink. So we went up, and I had a couple of drinks. He said, "Go ahead and drink. You need a drink." And I had a couple, and he said, "I'm going to send you a book. And he said, "Let me tell you what happened to me. I ran into some people drunk and almost killed 3 of them. And I had to do something about my drinking. So I went into a program called Alcoholics Anonymous. And I haven't had a drink in 10 months. And then I knew he was lying." But he said, you've got a problem with alcohol, and you need to do something about it, and you're going to get in trouble, and bad things are going to happen if you don't do something about your drinking. And I'm going to send you this book. And if you will experience what's in that book, it'll eliminate the need to drink. It has a program in there that teaches you how not to drink and what to do not to drink. And so I said, "Don't send it to the hotel where I'll be. Send it where my wife will get a hold of it. She'll think I've got a problem, you know." And I wouldn't want her to think that, you know. Having been drunk only 8 or 10 years, you know. And so anyhow, I took it home and hid it, I thought, from my wife. And that was in the latter part of 45, and the moment of clarity where God intervened. And let me tell you something right now to begin with. God is in sobriety, relative to sobriety, God is not optional. You can't either have God or not have God and stay sober. We have to have a relationship with a power greater than we are that can restore us to sanity. And we proved that we can't do it ourselves, so we need a power greater than we are to help us and restore us to sanity. And so, anyhow, I went to see Bob. That moment of clarity came, and I got on a plane, went to Dallas, and Bob put me in a hospital. Not a hospital, it was a drying out joint. And I stayed there. He paid my way 5 days in there, and they gave me an ounce of whiskey every 4 hours. I've been drinking a pint every hour. So how in the world is that going to help you? So I decided, and an old guy in there told me, if you'll pass up that drink, you'll get sober and get out of here. And so the second day, for some unknown reason, having been drunk 20 years, I did not have to have a drink by the grace of God. So Bob called and said, we're going to take you to AA. And he came pick me up. We went downtown Dallas at 9:12 man, and parked in front of a liquor store. And then I knew AA had worked. You know. But we didn't go in the liquor store. We climbed stairs on the side. And at the top of the building was "Welcome, you're home." And that's the first time I'd seen a welcome turn around where I could read it in a long time. They didn't see me come in and turn it around, you know. So I went in there, and here were 9 guys, all sober, all nice looking, all sober, all happy, joyous, and free. And I'm going to tell you now, if you're not having fun in this thing, there's something wrong with you. It's not the program. This is a fun deal. And we're not supposed to be a glum lot. We don't have to be a glum. It's the funniest thing that ever happened to me to be sober. And I enjoy it. And I love it. And there's nothing like it. Not only just not drinking, but the life and the life that you can live. Like no other way to live in God's world. Not even as a Christian or whatever you want to call it. Churchgoer in the... So... Here is why each one of you are individually are responsible. And each of us are. Not as a group. Not anything, but each of us individually, we're responsible to stay sober because there's somebody out there waiting for you and waiting for me, and you and I or somebody you are the only one who can help that person. And they won't listen to anybody else. They don't want anybody else. But you can help them change their lives by sharing with them what happened to you. And we're responsible to do that. Individually. Not collectively, but individually. We're responsible. And so, responsibility is part of our program. It's all of our program. It's what it's about. To stay sober, to be able, when that person comes along, I'll be there. I want the hand of AA to be there. And we're responsible to do that. We don't deserve sobriety if we're not there to help somebody when they need help. I pray every morning, God's will to show me somebody that needs help as badly as I did. And many days I'm shown that person. Many times in a day. Somebody comes, I want you to help me. I'm trying to get sober. You bet. That makes my day. That's happy, joyous, and free. The bottom line that Abby told Bill when he first told him about what he's doing in the Oxford group, he asked him what the bottom line. He said, we trust God, clean house, and help others. And we haven't changed that in all the years. That's still the bottom line. Trust God, clean house, and help others. That's before AA. But it's true. So, anyhow, I called my wife and told her I thought I'd found a way to stay sober. The guy that, not the guy that had all the money that running made, but another guy, took me by the arm and took me to the wall where the 12 steps were. And he said, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Okay. Do you admit you're powerless over alcohol, your life's unmanageable? I have no problem with that. I know it. Well, he said, do you trust in God? Do you know you have any relationship with God? Do you believe in God? I said, yes, I believe in Him. I don't think He believes in me. But I believe there is a higher power. I'm a recovering Baptist. And so he said, well, you don't know how to not take that first drink. I couldn't imagine how you could not drink. What would you do if you didn't drink, you know? And so this guy said, here's what you do not to take a drink. Before you get out of bed in the morning, I don't want any of your promises or propositions. I don't want any of your New Year's resolutions. I don't want all that stuff you've been doing. I want a commitment from you to God that you will not take a drink of alcohol today. And he says, if you don't drink today, you never will, because it's always today. And with my simple mind, I could understand that. So I've followed that for 57 years almost. Do not take a drink just today. And I'll never take a drink. It's always today. And it's always a good day sober. You know. Well, let's think about the spirituality threads that are woven in the fabric of AA. Let's just look at them. First, let's look at when Abby, an old schoolmate, went to see Bill Wilson in Towns Hospital. And Abby's in the Oxford group. And Bill is an infidel, agnostic at least. And so Bill asked Abby, what is this deal, Oxford? What's it about him? And he tried to explain. He said, no, I want to know what the hell it is. How did you stay sober? How come you sober? And he said, we trust God, clean house, and help others. And that's before AA, but Bill thought about it. And that night he got on his knees and said, if there is a God, show himself to me. And he had that spiritual experience. I've had a lot of hot flashes, but might be my age. But old Bill never took another drink. After he said, if there is a God, show him, and he did. Without any doubt, he showed him what a higher power, what God is. And he never took another drink. And because he got on his knees and said that is the reason that you and I are here sober today. That one little event, Bill getting on his knees. And that's what made us in AA. Because he got on his knees and made the difference in whether we live or die, or whether we're sober or drunk, or whether we're helpful to people and care for people or not, give it that. You know, it's that simple. So anyhow, with Bill's help in 48, he came to Texas, and by that time a few groups were springing up here and there, but we were having a lot of trouble, you know, if we'd had any traditions, it broke all of them. And so I met Bill in Amarillo, and we were going to Lubbock, where there were about 25 people congregated, and Bill was going to speak. And after we got back on the plane, he reached in his pocket and pulled out some handwritten notes. And he said, I want you to read these and see what you think about them and hand them back, you know. And so I read them carefully with all my knowledge, you know, been sober nearly 2 years. And I said, Bill, this is good for you Yankees, but we don't need it down here. We love each other. Oh, God, how we love each other. What it was the 12 traditions he had written out in longhand. Aren't you glad I didn't start this thing? Huh? Oh, yeah. I asked Bill all these questions. Why don't you go to the Yale School and study alcoholism, and then you know all the answers? I said, okay, I'll go. How do I go? I'll send you, he said. And he sent me, and I came back with all that knowledge. And about, less than a year after that, Dr. Jelinek was head of the Yale School on Alcohol Studies in New Haven. And so I got a scholarship. Bill got me a scholarship, and I went up there and got all this knowledge and came back. And so the school was at TCU at Fort Worth, Texas Christian University. And after a short while, Dr. Jelinek was a banana scientist that came to South America to head the Yale School on Alcohol Studies. And I asked him, how in the hell does the banana guys go to drunks? And he said, very simply, they get away from their primary purpose. And he said, and they also like bananas because if they get away from the bunch, they get peeled. And so that's satisfied. Well, I traveled all over the Southwest. Another guy, a school teacher, and I, we set up local committees for education on alcoholism. We had the newspaper people, they had the prominent doctors to head these schools that alcoholism is a disease. How do we know? It doesn't respond to self-treatment. There's one reason, and that was good for me to know that I had a disease, and it's very important that we are not moral dialects just because we drink and stuff like that, but we're sick people when we cross that line into compulsive pathological drinking. That's the only kind of drinking that's a disease, when you have to drink to get away from the effects of drinking. And so we established 4 hospitals. Dr. Jelinek retired in 1950. And he said, what we need is medical hospitals where an alcoholic can go in and get treatment like any other disease for their illness, as a disease. So we established 4 hospitals. And the one in Dallas, Bill came to see one time, and he talked to all 15 patients that were in the hospital. And we had a good medical staff, good people, RNs and on the staff. And after Bill talked to these patients, they're still in there sobering up, we went to have lunch. And at that lunch, I said, Bill, this is 1953. And this thing started really in 1935. What in AA have you not seen happen all these years that you'd like to see happen that hasn't happened? And he said, quickly, I'd like to see Abby have a chance to get sober. Now, Abby, 6 months after he told Bill how to get sober, what to do, trust God, clean house, and help others, Abby went down in the Bower in New York and stayed down there. And there was a guy in Dallas, and he and his wife moved to New York, and finally found Abby after about 6 months after Bill asked her, and got him, finally talked him into coming to Texas to sober. He didn't want to come, and he was mad as hell. And he checked him in my hospital and put him right across from my office. And one morning he'd cussed me out, and the next morning Bill, the next morning Dr. Bob, and he was very unhappy. But after 6 weeks, I called Bill Wilson. I said, Bill, I can't help this guy. We can't help him. He can't be helped. And he said, please, please, please keep trying. And a registered nurse that had come into Alcoholics Anonymous and came in after that a couple of days and said, I see a change in Abby. Well, I said, I don't see a change in him. How? And I left town, was gone there a few days, and came back. And she said, there's absolutely a change in Abby. And the next day, he asked me where was I going. I said, I'm going to an AA meeting. He said, can I go with you? And he went. And he got sober. And he went out and worked on a ranch. And he stayed sober 3.5 years. And then he fell in love, like I do, with all the women. He fell in love with an RN nurse that had worked for the county hospital that was addicted to drugs. And he nursed her day and night, stayed with her, did not drink for 2.5 years, and when she died, he got drunk. And so he stayed drunk at periods of 3.5 or 4 years. But anyhow, he was Bill's sponsor. So the story about that is we don't give up on anybody. Nobody is hopeless or helpless. Nobody. I don't care how many times you've been out and failed and this and that. Keep coming back. It works. Sometime, somewhere, somehow, somebody will say the right thing and sobriety will set in. It's contagious. And so remember that. Let's not give up but let's remember that each of us are responsible because we are the only one, you are the only one that can make a difference in somebody's life. Only one. So, I mean, I'm gonna have, I don't care how much time I don't have. You little sweetheart.
Break, Searcy, just a second. We got a ticket lady out here that's busy, wants to ride up a Chevy Malibu, aluminum. And so if anybody's on the street, and a GMC Jimmy, the sport cars better get moved, or you're gonna get a ticket.
Thanks, John.
Go ahead, Searcy.
What do you say?
It's all taken care of. You can continue.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Captain. Here, we didn't always have these 12 steps that we have now. Here are the ones we had early on before. These are the 12 steps. We admitted we were powerless over nothing. We could manage our lives perfectly and those of anyone else who would allow us to. We came to believe there's no power greater than ourselves and the rest of the world was insane. We made a decision to have our loved ones and friends turn their will and lives over to our care, even though they couldn't understand us at all. We made a searching and fearless moral and immoral inventory of everybody we knew. We admitted the whole world at large the exact nature of everybody else's wrong. We were entirely ready to make others straighten up and do right. We demanded others to shape up and ship out. We made a list of all persons who had harmed us and became willing to get even with all of them. We continued to take the inventory of others, and when they were wrong, promptly and repeatedly told them about it. We sought through bitching and nagging to improve our relationship with others, as we couldn't understand them at all, asking only if they knuckle down and do things our way. Having had a complete physical, emotional, and spiritual breakdown as a result of these steps, we tried to blame it on others and get pity and sympathy in all our affairs. My definition of spirituality, and I had a problem with that, I thought it was religion. Spirituality is the reflection of godliness in the channels of human living. It's what we'd like to be, not what we are, but what we'd like to be. And religion is a form of worship. And they were hard for me to differentiate because I was a recovering Baptist, you know. But anyhow, thank God we had some early promises too. And the first one was, you will know your full name and address. You'll be able to shave yourself. You'll be able to dress and undress yourself at the appropriate time and places. You will at all times know the city, state, and country you're in. You will routinely be able to find matching socks. You'll be able to smoke if you wish without burning holes in the clothes or the furniture. You will lose the fear of food. You'll spend less time in the bathroom. You'll be able to walk a straight line past the balloon test. You will lose the fear of police cars in your rearview mirror. You'll be able to answer the doorbell without looking through the keyhole first. You will realize what a mess you've been and thank God for AA and Al-Anon. Right? Okay, those are the things that are wrong and not. But here are the important 12 things in recovery. First, we have faith instead of despair. Courage instead of fear. Fear is a dark room where negatives are developed. Yeah, is that all right? Yeah, and they develop in a hell of a hurry, too. Peace of mind instead of confusion. Real friendships instead of loneliness. Self-respect instead of self-contempt. self-confidence instead of helplessness, a clean conscience instead of a sense of guilt, the respect of others instead of their pity and contempt, a clean pattern of living instead of a purposeless existence, the love and understanding of our families instead of their doubts and fears, the freedom of a happy life instead of the bondage of an alcoholic obsession. And those are the real rewards. And as I said, spirituality, that I had trouble with defining between religion and spirituality. But to me, spirituality is what we like to be, what we want to be, what we ought to be, and what we know we should be. But we're not there. So, I'm going to wind you up with, I finished high school with a guy named Stuart Hamblin, and I didn't think much of him because he's a Methodist. And I was such a devout Baptist, you know. And, but anyhow, after we finished high school, he went to Hollywood, and he was a hell of a songwriter. And he was a good singer in high school, but I didn't have much to do with it. But about a long time after we finished high school, and he went to Hollywood and wrote all those religious songs for the religious movies, he called me one day and wanted to know if I'd be his sponsor. And I said, sponsor for what? He said, I'm in AA. I've been sober 2.5 years. Oh, we talked a while. I had no idea he was an alcoholic or would ever be. His dad was a Methodist minister and all that. Doesn't matter, you know. And he said, what song are you talking about? And I said, the song is, it is no secret what God can do. And as I told you, I don't believe God or the higher power is optional if we want to stay sober. I think we have to come to the realization that God, and if we look around at the miracles that happen because of the grace of God only, not our fault, we didn't do it. But the finalization of the thing of our success will be that the help comes from up there. So the song goes like this, and I didn't do this until a year or so ago. Old Dave Denny, a taper, down in Florida, I was speaking down there, and his tape machine was directly down the aisle in front of me. And he had heard me, he went to New Jersey, we were all over here and there. Different time of talk and recorded him, I said, and he ran down that aisle, he said, damn it, sing that song. And I said, yes, sir. Whatever you wish, you know, sing. But the song goes like this, if you'll pardon the singing, you listen to the words. The chimes of time ring out the news, another day is through. Someone slipped and fell. Was that someone you? You may have longed for added strength, your courage to renew. Do not be disheartened, 'cause I've got news for you. It is no secret what God can do. What He's done for others, He'll do for you. With arms wide open, He'll pardon you. It is no secret what God can do. There is no night, for in His light you'll never walk alone. You'll always feel at home, wherever you may roam. There is no power can conquer you while God is on your side. Just take Him at His promise. Don't run away and hide. It is no secret what God can do. What He's done for others, He'll do for you. With arms wide open, He'll pardon you. It is no secret what God can do. I'm glad old Smitty was... Old Bob Smith and all, I always sing that song together. Neither one of us to sing worth a damn, but we love that song and love what it does for us. So I'm sorry you're not here, but he called me this morning and said, tell everybody thanks. Bob Smitty, and he loves all of you, and I do too. Bless you, thank you, and keep coming back at work.
What's the best advice you could give to newcomers, people brand new in the AA deal? What's the best advice you can give the newcomers, the guys that are just sober?
The new one just coming in. Look, the first thing in our meetings, this to the group and then to the individual. As a group, let's not let anybody come in and sit in the back of the room and leave with trouble on their mind, problems on their mind. Somebody be at the back and get a hold of that guy, get him a sponsor, get him some help, and he'll stay sober rather than going out and you'll read about him, he got run over, he got killed, he got shot, or whatever. So we can, as individuals, are responsible to get to the back room and see that that person doesn't leave here without knowledge how to stay sober. Is that all right? Yeah. All right. Yes. Come up here, honey. I want to love you anyhow.
Thank you. Valerie, alcoholic.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing as a sponsor I need to share with my sponsees?
As sponsorship requires to telling the truth, which sometimes we don't lie, just stretch the truth a little. But to be on ground level with the newcomer, to make sure that they understand that this is a process, not an event. This AA is a design for living that eliminates the need for alcohol. But first, you have to, and those questions that I was asked, first, you admit you're powerless over alcohol, your life's unmanageable, no problem. Came to believe in the power greater than ourselves. You got to have a power greater than yourself. Do you believe that? And most of them say yes. They don't, but say through prayer and meditation you can accomplish a power that you believe in that must be in charge. I had an example in our prison meeting. A guy that didn't believe in a higher power. And they asked him, this guy at another prison asked him, said, do you see the sun rise in the morning? Yes, I see that. You see it set in the afternoon? Yes, I see that. Can you do it? Some kind of power out there. And so you see these different things, what that is, what that power is. Come on up.
Do you think we're forgetting how to make 12-step calls?
No, we're not forgetting, we're just deleting it. And 12-step is part of the trust God, clean house, and help others. And not a one of us can ever be happy, joyous, and free if we don't find a way to help somebody else. If you've been in AA 5 or 6 or 7 years, I don't know of anybody I've ever helped. Well, that's a damn poor answer. Because if I don't justify sobriety, I am, if I don't try to help somebody else and I ask God every morning, show me somebody that needs help as badly as I did. And there's not very many of those out there, but some out there, they need some help. And we have to stay with them to see, we don't know what the hell we're doing when we first come in. We have to have guidance. And we have to remember back when we were there and put ourselves back where they are to help them and guide them along. All right?
The question is that with all the work that you do with the 12 steps and stuff, if I look back at what the elders or the older AAs did, it seems like they're doing a heck of a lot more than I'm doing. And how do you know where to draw the line as to what's helping too much and you're not taking care of yourself, and what's doing the right amount?
There's not any way that you can help too much. There's not anything you can do wrong if you do it from within your heart, with courage from the heart. And you do it, and there's not anything wrong that you can say to the newcomer from your heart. But it has to be from your heart. C-O-U-R, from your heart, courage, to tell them exactly what they need. I can't tell people, you're going to have it easy every time. You just come in here and you got it easy from then on. You're going to have some problems. You're going to have some you think you've had problems before, you're going to have more. But I'll tell you this, there's a way that you can not drink and solve those problems a hell of a lot better than you can drunk. No.
Hi. I'm wondering, can you give some advice on how to be a good sponsor, the responsibilities of a sponsor,
The biggest responsibility for a sponsor to me is to be where you can get a hold of, to be available, to be where if somebody, and we should tell the people we sponsor, here are telephone numbers. You can reach me anytime. Don't if you get a bad bunch of thinking or this and that and other screwed up, call. Don't wait till you get drunk. Call now and let's talk. And maybe we can help each other. Maybe I'm in the mood of drinking. Call me and let me help you, and we'll help each other. And it's a two-way street. Every call we get from a new guy or a new gal, I need help. Well, that's the help I get. You're helping me when you call me and say, I need help. So do I. Trust God, clean house, and help others and ourselves, or we're automatically helped. Come on up here, good looking.
Searcy, I always heard that Ebby held on to a resentment towards Bill for not being considered one of the co-founders of AA. Is that
Bill
right?
Abby had a lot of resentment toward Bill. And Bob. But they say nobody is helpless or hopeless. Anybody can come to believe in the power, and anybody can get sober and through the program. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Bob and Bill didn't sit down and write these 12 steps and say do them. No, they did them. They experienced them, then they wrote down what they did. So it's already proven. We don't have to prove it, it's already proven. Bill and Bob, they did these things, and sometimes they had to go back and do it over, different way. But they had to do these things, they wrote down what they did that helped them and caused them to stay sober.
And did Ebby ever come back after he went out that one time?
Oh, Abby came back, he got drunk several times, and he stayed sober 3.5, 4 years at a time. Why, I don't know. I was his sponsor, but I don't know why.
All right, thanks.
But the Thatcher family were well-to-do people in Albany, and Mel Barger and I went back there a while back to Albany, and Abby's father donated a 1,000-acre park in the middle of Albany. And they're prominent people, good people, and Abby was just one that got up and so see, again, I did not inherit alcohol. through a process, I became a compulsive pathological drinker. It's a process. Come on up. Oh, good looking.
Hey. How do we help someone who keeps going in and out of the fellowship and without giving up?
Well, you got to keep coming back and work. The problem with going back out and somebody that needs to come back is that, and I advise them to, I hope that I can help you to not drink like I was helped on a daily basis. But you also read about people that come in and they don't get attention or find out how not to drink on a daily basis, and they go out and you read in the paper they got run over, or they got shot, or they got something bad happen. Yeah. Come on up.
Searcy, what was the toughest thing in your first year of sobriety?
What was what?
Your toughest thing to deal with?
In sobriety, the toughest part was going to meetings because I was 350 miles from a group. And so I had to talk to people and try to get them to understand what I had been told. I didn't know it, but that's what I was told. In AA, when I went to it, told me to make these commitments in the morning and all those things. And I tell other people what to do. So you start telling other people, you better do it yourself. You know. So that's all right.
We just have time for 2 more questions.
Okay. Come on up, Fred.
Hi there. My question is, in terms of, there seems to be this general way of thought that only people with a lot of sobriety should sponsor people just coming in. I mean, do you think that you need to have 6 months or a year, and you start sponsoring people on human sobriety? So, you know, what's I really like.
She's asking me, should the newcomer, or what should there be an age where you start sponsoring people? I say no. But I mean by sponsoring, if you've only got 3 or 4 months of sobriety, say, I'm not your sponsor yet, but I want to go along with you, and you help me, and I'll help you, and we'll get sober, stay sober. So I don't think we ought to put any. I've seen people come in with 2 or 3 months sobriety, and they were working on others like hell, and they didn't get drunk either. And so I think the quicker we go to work, the quicker we try to help somebody, the more help we get. You can never do it too soon.
Hello, sir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. How do I deal with my selfishness and self-seeking nature?
Prayer and meditation.